Hey everyone, it's Jamie from Independent Street Tarot and Seasons and Ritual, and I'm here to talk about this dark moon that's happening today, December 1st. It was exact at 12:20 a.m., but we were also in the energy of the dark moon yesterday. And I had posted on my Instagram that that was called a black moon because we had two dark moons in a calendar in 30 days. I've never heard that before, but it sounded cool, so I posted it. So we had a dark moon on November 1st, and then we went into the dark moon on November 30th. So that's two in one cycle. I would just point out that whether it's called a black moon or not, it is important to see that to keep up with the moon cycles. It is important to see that on these dark moons, I always see them as time of rest until we move into that new moon, which is the sliver. Dark moons is that time of meditation because we're in the void. The sun and the moon are together. That is when our masculine and feminine are together. The sun represents the masculine, the moon represents our feminine. And so with these dark moon times, um, this is when we do, like we say, we plant seeds, because it's the idea of the masculine and feminine coming together. But I always like to say to take this time, to schedule this time to be quiet, to reflect, um, to kind of like you go within to kind of see what is really needs to be happening, right? It is that void, it is that dark matter, it is that space where creation happens. You know, black holes, black stars, all those things, right? That we know that's in the universe and we can't really explain them, but we know that's where life comes from. So when it's a dark moon and our masculine and feminine together, the sun and the moon together, I always say, take this time for rest. Take this time for rest. And we can use the rest of the moon cycle to start working on what it is that we feel so called to work on. So this is we're in Sagittarius season and it's a very busy season. Planets are shucking and jiving all the way up into the 15th, and then it kind of slows down. But the interesting part about this dark moon and the beginning of Sagittarius season is the retrogrades that are happening. So Mercury just went retrograde, and it will be retrograde until the 15th, right before as we get ready to move into Capricorn season. So Mercury's retrograde in Sagittarius. The sun obviously is in Sagittarius. Right now, the sun and the moon are conjunct Mercury retrograde. So before, when things would go retrograde, it was always like, check your emails, don't commit to anything. Make sure you have your phone, all these electronics, right? Which is still, I guess, not that's good advice to live by, quite honestly. But it is about going over um how we live, how we communicate. What is it that we're communicating to others? And are we paying attention to what others are communicating to us? So Sagittarius is known as like the student and the philosopher. Sagittarius is the adventurer. Sagittarius wants to learn. Sagittarius likes, like we say, like likes to go on adventures and learn how people do things and observe, right? That makes Sag happy. It's seeing what works for others, seeing how they do it and if it could work for them. And then as this idea as it gets older and wiser because it went on all these adventures, it can help maybe give some advice, or at least some philosophies, correct? And so this is where Mercury has gone retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. And so to me, it is asking us to call and look upon our adventures. What is it that we've actually seen with our own two eyes? What is it that we've actually experienced? How has that helped you? How has that shaped you? How has that maybe changed your perception of things? But it's also important to go over the last time you had adventured. Okay. I went to Las Vegas with my friend this year, like I think at the end of August. I think the end of August, maybe beginning of September. I hadn't been to Las Vegas in 20 fucking years, you guys. So I really can't tell you like, oh, Las Vegas, because the last time I went, I was literally a teenager. So maybe so it had to be more than 20 years ago. Uh, anyway, sorry, I digress. It was a long time ago, okay? So I'm thinking like we went there for my sister's 21st birthday, and now my sister is 50, so you guys do the math. Um, And so, but I have fond memories of when I went to Las Vegas for my sister's birthday, right? And, I watch people eat food in Las Vegas. I did a lot of that, especially during the pandemic, right? But I hadn't been to Las Vegas. I hadn't set foot in Las Vegas. And so when I was actually there and talking to the people that work there, talking to the taxi drivers, talking to the Uber drivers and um you know, talking to, that Formula F1 had come in there and, what a shit show it was when they were redoing the roads, but like really talking to the people that were there and who it was impacting, it was a very different story than maybe that was like being presented on social media or the news, right? And so it's really important, I believe, with this quote unquote slowdown in Sagittarius season, when we're usually full of fire, right? Sagittarius is mutable fire. It takes us from one season to the next. So we're getting ready to move into winter. I know a lot of us are focused, kind of cleaning things out, getting ready for winter, which is good. But it's also really important if you're thinking about things, really ask yourself, when was the last time I've been there? When was the last time I actually had a conversation with someone who works in that field or that area or anything, right? Because Mercury slowing down, it's going back over. Where have we adventured? When was the last time we adventured? Should I be making comments or talking about things about people that aren't the same since the last time I was there? Should I go back and adventure again? Um, how will that change my perspective if I were to do that? Because where we are now is we're at a huge crossroads, and I think we all know this, politically, especially. But we're at a huge crossroads, and one way that we move forward is really taking stock in ourselves and see what we've done or haven't done, what we're doing or not doing. But really looking, because Mercury is conjunct with the sun and the moon, and asking our masculine and feminine, where are we? As my friend Allison says, how did we get here? Right? Is it time to just kind of admit to ourselves that, I am X years old and I hadn't been there for 1 million years, whatever. You guys did the math. Thank you. Um, so do I need to be making decisions for these people or in this program that I'm not even a part of, right? So we're talking about hospitality program or um, drivers, because that's who we were talking to while we were there. But I think you guys get the point. Because this is Jupiter. This is an important time for us to go over ourselves and what it is like we think our philosophy is. And if it is treat others how you want to be treated, you need to, we need to see if that's how we're living. And if it's not, we need to kind of face that. Um, Jupiter is retrograde in Gemini. Um, Jupiter is that planet of faith. It is gifts and lucks. Jupiter is Sagittarius's ruler. And this is a really good, as far as Mercury retrogrades go, a good Mercury retrograde because they're in mutual reception. So being able to communicate to yourself and maybe to others in a different way about your philosophy, right? About the last time you adventured, about how you believe things should be moving forward, right? Because a lot of times, Mercury will go retrograde and it's just like we kind of have to power through this. But because it's in mutual reception, Jupiter really wants us to zero in, really wants us to ask ourselves, how do we want things to be moving forward? Really ask ourselves, what is it that I would like to expand, right? Where can I get this information? Is there too much information? Gemini is the twins, so Gemini is going to be there to help give us a lot of information. Is the information I'm getting correct? Is the information I'm getting actually lining up with my philosophy? And if the answer is yes, great, keep working, keep on keeping on. But if the answer is no, then it's time to take a look around and see where to change directions, where to change the path. Again, Jupiter is asking us in Gemini to pick a road, to pick a lane. But if you decide you don't like the lane that you're in because you're kind of going over your philosophy, you're kind of going over, you went to these other countries and they were just fine and they didn't inhibit you at all. Um, then why all of a sudden do you believe the way that you do now? Like if you're out in the public and I would say like I go to the Walmart on Chapultepec, and that's the Oracle, right? I check the temperature with what's going on at that Walmart, right? Um, and honestly, guys, seems still pretty good. Okay, so I will say that. But it is this idea of when you go out and you're adventuring outside of your house, how are things moving forward? What are the thoughts that you're having? What are the thoughts you're saying to yourself? Is actually everything moving okay? Is actually things getting done that need to be get done in order to keep us expanding, to keep nurturing us? And if the answer is yes here, but not there, okay, that's what Jupiter and Gemini want you to work with. That's to me with this. I guess I'm talking more about this Mercury retrograde than I am the dark moon to work with. But I do think it is important to talk about this at this time of pause. I guess I could say that to keep working with this energy because Mercury retrograde is the story of Sagittarius season right now. And so as the moon gets bigger and we go through Sagittarius, and actually the full moon accumulates the same day as Mercury turns direct. So I don't feel so bad about going off on this tangent about Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius. It is important to pay attention to what's lining up and what's not lining up. And if your life is lining up, but maybe social media or things around you are telling you different, this is when you step in with yourself and say, wait, actually, I don't believe that because what I see with my own two eyes looks like this. But then maybe you're seeing something with your own two eyes and you're hearing something else and that's not lining up. This is that masculine feminine coming together in this time of Sagittarius, right? We've got to take this rest and then we have to go out and adventure. We've got to see if our philosophies are meeting up with the way that we want to live. We've got to see if our philosophies are meeting up with what we think. Maybe it's time marches on, friends. We're either getting older or we're not. Okay. So the fact that I hadn't been to Las Vegas in that amount of time, I was like, holy shit. Because again, in my brain, I'm there. And my sister's 21. Okay. But that's not reality. Okay. Where we are now is I'm 46 and Holly's 50. And it's time, it is this like almost like a gentle reality check with the dark moon. Mars is slowing down to turn retrograde in Leo. And so again, Mars, who normally in a fire sign, raring to go, that's that masculine energy, moving, is slowing down. And it's actually taking a look to see what is it that inspires me? What is it that lights me up? Is it actual things that inspire me, or is it just this idea of getting revved up in order to move? Right? I was talking to my friend today, and she's like, I'm taking a huge break. I can't, like, it's my nervous system. I can't keep getting revved up. And she was saying there's other ways for me to get excited about things that I can do in a more gentle way besides just getting super pissed off and then feeling like I have to take some sort of action. That's also this energy of this dark moon, of this Sagittarius season. Things are going to be happening, things are going to be changing, and things are going to be getting done, but it's going to be in a different energy. And I say it's in a softer energy, and I do mean that. I do feel that it's a softer energy because it's this more feminine energy, quite energy, honestly, coming in. But it doesn't mean like we're not going to get things done. It's just that we're going to be experiencing it differently. Instead of finding someone to argue with or finding someone to get mad at, finding something to push up against. It is this idea of, okay, well, what inspires me? Why do I want to have this in my life? Because a lot of artists are coming back online. People are feeling inspired again, right? And so if it's not those old Capricornian ways, because Pluto moved into Aquarius, well, I got to make money and I got to do this and I got to be the biggest and I got to be the baddest. Um, and there might be like little touches of in that, but it's this different way of moving us forward. It's this different way of understanding ourselves. And Mars in Leo is realizing that, because Leo in its highest form is fixed fire, right? But it's the inspiration of fire. It is what inspires you to be who you are. That lower Leo is like the ego and I got to be the best, and I always say cock rock, like so gross, but like that kind of stuff, just over the top and super far out there. Like, well, you guys lived through the 80s if you didn't look up Motley Crue and things like that. And now it's not that and it's just that it's a different energies here. It's not like going from cock rock to singer-songwriter. But it's just like understanding there's different things that inspire us. And sometimes being, inspired in your heart, um, isn't coming from being scared, isn't coming from fear, isn't come from like I've got to be the best or I'm fucking finished, right? It is this idea of community. It's this idea of serving thyself and serving others, right? That's Aquarius, where Pluto now is. Um, it is this idea of if I'm doing okay, can others do okay, right? And it's still about holding a boundary, right? Because it is getting out of this idea of, remember, the South Node is at the end of Libra, and that South Node was getting us out of people pleasing. And the North Node was in Aries, which was realizing who we are and coming more back into our authentic self. And so the nodes are at the final degrees of this journey. And so because and it's just, a lot of times you want to have like aha moments or, you know, I don't know, this happened and then I bumped myself on the head and I realized it. But just this energy of people using the word showing up as their authentic self, just this energy of, you know, that happened with that election and you feel okay not going to family dinner because things have got to change. That's showing up as your authentic self. It is getting out of people pleasing. It is saying, okay, I can understand how to set this boundary. We have to remember Saturn is direct in Pisces, and it's really holding that line. Neptune will turn direct at the end of the month, right? Um, and so this is a lot of energy being shifted and being changed, and it's all happening. I mean, not all of it, but a lot of it is happening during this Sagittarius season, and with this, and not with this new moon, but coming in the Sagittarius cycle. But it is something that I think that we need to kind of ponder on this dark moon, but realize like this is coming in. Okay, I've got some cards. I've got the Goddess of Love Tarot, so I thought this would be a good one. So we'll pull a card for this moon. The fact that Mercury turns direct the same day we have the full moon is pretty cool. And it's the full moon in Gemini. So, um, we can't get away from Gemini being a big factor in the season, Jupiter being a big factor in the season. And I will say this, Jupiter retrograde, I was looking in my book, it is this sometimes when it goes retrograde, one of the things that it does, it's like the denial of negative things happening. So don't be in denial. Negative things are happening, and it is up to us to speak out, right? It doesn't mean that they will keep continuing to happen, or it doesn't mean it can get worse. But this is not the time to go in denial about things. Okay. And I think that's another reason too, that's important to see how this Mars is only at 6 degrees of Mars before it starts to retrograde back into Cancer. Because we don't need to have our hair on fire. We need to be grounded, as they say, right? We need to take a good look at things. Sagittarius can take us higher, can expand our vision so we can see what's really going on. and getting out of the muck and the mire, if you will. Check back in to see what your philosophy is. Okay, can we get a card for this dark moon, please? Okay, woo. Goddess of Love, Six of Cups. Wow, let's get twofold. And then the Ace of Swords. Ace of Swords is not going anywhere, friends. Um, Ace of Swords, that Swords energy, that's that epiphany, right? That is a new way of communicating. That is a new way of listening. That is a new way of thinking, right? Swords is this mental energy. Jupiter and Gemini, Gemini would be considered a sword. Um, because Gemini is an air sign. So the ace is this new way. The ace is that aha. The ace is, oh wow. So see what comes up differently. And it could be just like, I never noticed that I was freaking saying this, but when I thought about it, that's not how I live. I see a lot of people saying like we're just all supposed to get along and support each other. But if that's not what you're saying, you need to fucking come to terms on that, right? And also, you need to, what do you say? Like, um, you need to understand where maybe you're not listening to what you're being told. Okay. And I mean, this is for all of us. This is a reality check for all of us. Okay. So we got the Six of Cups, a beautiful card, rose, um, pearls, right? Six of Cups. So again, cups is water, cups is energy, or creativity, excuse me, energy. Um, cups is love. And we are being asked to go back more towards love. We are being going asked to create with love, okay, and not hate and division. The Six of Cups in the Rider-Waite Tarot shows two children, and it is a kind of a thing about reminiscing or like yesteryear is a lot of times what people say it, but I just see it as a time of being like I just see it as you can see it, Six of Cups can be in the present, but it's about being keeping things simple, right? What is it that you love? What is it that you want to create? How can you go into your heart every day? She looks a little daydreamy if you want. But that rose is always the idea of alchemy, right? Um, the Magdalens, all the Magdalens, the sisterhood, creation. And I will say this because it has been haunting me, but the idea of cancer, okay, not like physical cancer, but cancer in the sky, because Mars is going to move back into Cancer. And so this story of the mother is going to be big in the coming year, if not more, because the moon was in Cancer when Pluto moved into Aquarius, when all the signs, outer planets, when they all switch signs in 2025, they all go into fire, or they all go into fire in air signs except for Gemini, who will move into Cancer. Okay. Mars is getting ready to move back into Cancer. So it is this idea of going back into recreation, right? Creating something new. Um, Cancer is a water sign. So of course I would think of that too, the Six of Cups going into water. But this is really a powerful time of asking us, what is it that we want to create? Do our words match up with the way we philosophize about our lives? Pluto is at 0 degrees of Aquarius until December 30th. You don't sleep on this, friends. That 0 degree mark is huge. That karma changing point is huge. And the fact that it's still there for the next 29 days, we really need to pay attention to that. Okay, so we're a little dark moon. Sagittarius had a lot to say. Again, sometimes I go like where everything's trining and stuff like that, but at other times, I think it's important to just kind of channel a message to see what comes in. And Mercury being retrograde for this basically, new moon to full moon, is really important. So Four of Swords, there's the butterfly, right? It's time to come out of the chrysalis. It's time to know who we are, and it's time to show up. No more thinking, is now the right time? This is telling you now's the right time. It's time to show up. And speak with wisdom, speak with love, speak with compassion, speak with courage. Those are all, I think, Sagittarian themes, for sure. Not besides being the life of the party, of course, and having a good time. But you've got to have courage to show up. You got to have courage to go on this adventure. You got to have courage to say, shit, I was totally wrong about that one. Start over. Okay. But that's why we love Sagittarians, right? Because they're a good time, because they do listen and they do usually admit when they're wrong, but like, and so when they're like, oh yeah, let's do that instead, or like, oh, that was a mistake, right? We're like, oh yeah, because they can be really super relatable. So go into this time and see how you can be relatable too. All right, my friends, have a great Sunday. I will be back. I will be at the Tell Me Bar. I know this is for everybody, but I will be at the Tell Me Bar next Sunday doing tarot in the morning, and then I'll be doing a pop-up with some beautiful artists afterwards. So if you guys are in New Orleans, come out and see me and all our beautiful friends next Sunday. And of course, if you guys have questions, just put them out in the comments below. All right, till next time, friends. Have a good weekend.